I'm Paul Pillar. I had a 28-year career in the U.S. intelligence community. I've been a retired private citizen for the last decade and most recently an independent scholar after teaching a number of years at Georgetown University. I've just finished a book called Why America Misunderstands the World, which is about how we Americans, given our unique experience and situation, tend to see things beyond our borders differently from other people and unfortunately misperceive them. Americans are facing a renewed surge of fear about international terrorism, especially after the events in Paris and Brussels. I think the first thing that we need to remember is just what is the physical impact compared to all the other things in our daily lives. The amount of deaths and injuries from international terrorism, even at the hands of a fearsome group like ISIS, the so-called Islamic State, is still a lot less than things like bathtub drownings or people who die from lightning strikes. This is not an existential threat to us here in the United States. There's a strong desire right now to use our capabilities, our military capabilities, to, as some people put it, take out ISIS in Syria and Iraq. But what we've learned from painful past experience is that unless you have some kind of stable authority that comes in ready to become the sovereign power in whatever territory you're talking about, in this case the enclave that ISIS has established in Syria and Iraq, you may just have more chaos, which is a recipe for more extremism, whether it's under the heading of ISIS or something else. The collateral damage, the other loss of life and injury that results inevitably, causes more anger, more resentment, more perception of people overseas that the United States is out to kill Muslims or do the sorts of things that get people angry and radical and are all the more likely to enlist in a cause like ISIS. The kinds of constraints that the Obama administration has recognized in formulating its policy toward ISIS, I think demonstrate the inherent limitations involved. On the Democratic side, I think probably Mr. Sanders' approach is not all that different from what the Obama administration is doing. The one thing that Mrs. Clinton has talked about that is somewhat different is she has come out in favor, as have some people on the Republican side, of a so-called no-fly zone. But she hasn't explained, and neither have other people who have raised this idea. Even if you establish a no-fly zone and prohibit the airspace for use by the Syrian government or the Russians or anyone else, who controls the ground underneath? As far as the Republican candidates are concerned, Senator Cruz has talked about carpet bombing. There is no conceivable way that anything that approaches carpet bombing, which implies indiscriminate use of air power toward larger populations and cities, would do any good at all. Mr. Trump is focused on things less to be done overseas, but what might be done here in the United States, such as controlling the flow of refugees and building walls and all that. It's hard to see how that really would make a substantial difference in what's going on in Iraq and Syria as far as ISIS is concerned. I write fairly frequently about these issues of security in the Middle East and terrorism. You can find most of what I write at thenationalinterest.org, where I have a regular blog space